Hey, sports fans. Welcome back to the channel. You've tuned in to the Sports Scoop, where we bring the drama, the tea, and of course, all the spicy commentary from the world of sports. I'm your host, and today, oh boy, do we have some juicy drama between two ESPN heavyweights, Shannon Sharpe and Kirk Herbstreit, and let me tell you, things are about to get interesting. So grab your popcorn, because this is going to be a wild ride. Alright, let's set the stage. It's college football season, and Ohio State's head coach, Ryan Day, is under fire after another heartbreaking loss to Michigan. Shannon Sharpe, co-host of First Take, decides to join the chorus of critics, suggesting Day might be on the hot seat if he doesn't deliver a national championship soon. But just when you think it's business as usual in the world of sports commentary, in comes Kirk Herbstreit with a mic drop that nobody saw coming. Now, if you don't know who Kirk Herbstreit is, and how dare you not? Seriously, he's a former Ohio State quarterback and ESPN analyst who's basically the face of college football. He's got the inside scoop, the credentials, and let's not forget, he's a proud Buckeye. So when the comments about Ryan Day being on the chopping block started floating around, guess who stepped in to defend his alma mater? That's right, Herbstreit fired back on air with some words that sent shockwaves through ESPN's sports universe. Here's what he said during a broadcast of Ohio State's dominating win over Tennessee in the first round of the college football playoff. First Take tried to fire him. They thought he was done, so I'll be excited to see what they talk about on Monday after this performance. They had him out, trying to find replacements, but here he is. He still has his hat on. He's still coaching. That's right. Herbstreit just served First Take a nice, cold platter of, "I told you so," and it was delivered with all the flair of a man who knows exactly how to push the right buttons. He was ready for the showdown, and the gloves were off. Now, you would think that would be the end of it, right? A little back and forth between the analysts. But no, Stephen A. Smith, who is never afraid to dive into a little drama himself, decided to take the heat for the criticism of Day. But then, the big guns came out, the one, the only, Shannon Sharpe. Let me break it down for you. If you know anything about Shannon Sharpe, you know that this man does not hold back. So when it was his turn to respond to Herbstreit's comments, he didn't just throw a punch, he went full Rocky Balboa. "Folks," he said, "I'm gonna be a good teammate. I'm gonna let it slide. Everybody's at ESPN. Because had you not taken the route you've taken, I would have lit their expletive up. And here's the kicker, Shannon wasn't done. Oh no," he continued. "If we're going to be on the same team, if we're gonna work for the same network, don't do that. Kirk, Chris Fowler, I promise you, if you ever mention any platform that I'm on again talking about, I wonder what they're going to say is negativity. I promise you, ESPN ain't got enough bosses to keep me off y'all for what I'm going to say." Phew, did you feel the heat? Because I'm sweating just reading it. And the best part? He capped it off with a warning that sent chills down my spine. Don't play with me. Talk about raising the stakes. Now, viewers are all left wondering, is this the start of an epic feud between two ESPN titans? Or will it fizzle out like a cheap sparkler on the 4th of July? Here's the deal. There's a lot of drama going down at ESPN. And it all revolves around Ryan Day and his job security at Ohio State. After all, it's not just Herbstreit and Sharpe we need to think about. The next Ohio State game, the Rose Bowl quarterfinal against Oregon, is just around the corner. And the stakes are only going to get higher. Could this be the game that decides Day's future at Ohio State? And if he falls short, what will happen to all this bad blood between Herbstreit and Sharpe? Okay, so let's break it down and dive into some of the drama details here. Kirk Herbstreit, as we mentioned earlier, isn't just some random commentator. He's a former Ohio State quarterback and a college football icon. His connection to the Buckeyes runs deep, and there's no doubt he's one of the most respected voices in the game. So, when the fans and commentators started demanding Ryan Day's head after yet another loss to Michigan, Herbstreit had to step in to protect his own. But then there's Shannon Sharpe. If you thought Stephen A. Smith was the only one capable of a big comeback, you clearly haven't seen Sharpe in full beast mode. Sharpe, a former NFL superstar and an analyst known for his fiery and often hilarious takes, wasn't having any of it. He's not someone you want to mess with. especially when it involves defending his own show. First take. He knows how to turn the drama up to 11. And this exchange was no exception. At the end of the day, it's all about Ryan Day's future at Ohio State. If the Buckeyes fall short in their Rose Bowl game against Oregon, the pressure will be on like never before. And with analysts like Herbstreit and Sharpe fighting over the narrative, you know it's going to be a wild ride. Before we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Ryan Day deserves the heat he's been getting? Will Herbstreit and Sharpe continue their verbal sparring? Or was this just a one-off moment? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more juicy sports gossip, heated rivalries, and all the action from the world of football. And hey, share this video with your friends if you want them to be in the loop. 2. Catch you all in the next one. Hey, college football fans, welcome back to the channel. The college football playoff kicked off with a bang on Friday night. And while there was plenty of drama, there's one thing that has already caused a lot of controversy: Indiana being in the playoff in the first place. We all saw Notre Dame blow out Indiana 27-17. But let's be real, the game wasn't nearly as close as the final score suggests. Notre Dame was dominating, leading 27-3 before Indiana scored a couple of late touchdowns to make the game look more respectable. But ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit didn't hold back on Saturday morning's College Game Day when discussing Indiana's inclusion in the playoff. So, was Indiana really one of the best 12 teams in the country? Or were they just a product of a weak schedule? Let's dive in. Herbstreit's bold statement: Indiana didn't belong. It's not every day you hear an analyst like Kirk Herbstreit go all in like this. But during College Game Day, he was blunt. Indiana shouldn't have been on that field against Notre Dame. He didn't mince words either, saying, "It's no knock on Indiana. They had a great year. But we've got to move forward with the playoff and hope that the committee does a better job of weighing who the best 12 are versus who's the most deserving." Indiana was outclassed in that game. Harsh words, right? Herbstreit was quick to point out that Indiana had an impressive 11-1 record. But they didn't have the quality wins to back up that success. In his eyes, Indiana's spot in the playoffs was a result of their record rather than their overall strength as a team. But did Indiana deserve to be in the playoff? Well, that's a debate. Indiana's schedule, more than just wins. Sure, it's easy to criticize Indiana's schedule. But let's not forget, they didn't exactly have a cakewalk. Yes, their biggest test came in a 28-15 loss to Ohio State. But Indiana also went up against teams like Michigan and Washington, both of whom had just come off a national championship appearance the previous year. Were those teams weaker this year? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean Indiana should be punished for beating them, right? Here's where the argument gets tricky. Indiana's only loss came to a top 10 team in Ohio State, and they beat two teams that had played in last year's national title game. Their record is certainly impressive, even if their schedule wasn't stacked with heavyweights. Does that deserve a playoff berth? The case against other teams. Let's also consider the alternatives. Miami was a 10-2 team, but they blew a 21-point lead to Syracuse in the final week of the season, finishing with a defense that wasn't exactly championship caliber. Meanwhile, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina all had 3 losses. Alabama and Ole Miss both suffered losses to teams with subpar records, like a 6-6 Oklahoma or a 4-8 Kentucky. So while Indiana wasn't the most exciting team in the field, it's hard to argue they didn't deserve to be there when you look at the competition. The Hoosiers' 11-1 record in a Power 5 conference was enough to get them in. On the other hand, the 3 lost teams didn't have enough to justify a spot, especially with losses like that. The fallout from Indiana's inclusion. Here's the thing. While Indiana's inclusion in the playoff might not have been universally popular, if they were left out, it would have created a massive backlash. You can bet that fans, pundits, and even coaches would have been up in arms about Indiana's exclusion after a remarkable 11-1 season. That's exactly what happened after the playoff field was set in December. If Indiana hadn't made it, it would have sparked calls for playoff expansion and an overall rethink of the selection process. So while they may not have been the best team, they were certainly one of the most deserving, based on their record and performance in a Power 5 conference. What's next for Indiana? Well, The Hoosiers' season might have ended in a blowout loss to Notre Dame. But Indiana can still hold their heads high after a historic 11-1 season. They may have been outclassed on the field against the Fighting Irish. But making the playoff was a huge accomplishment.